Tonight's story is called Roly the Anzac Donkey. My name is Roland. Most people call me Roly. I haven't worked here on this farm for a time. I worked at a place called Gallipoli. I met a man there from New Zealand who was very special, and we worked as a team to help rescue soldiers who'd been hurt in the battle. I was born in a village in Greece where my parents worked on a farm. When I was nearly a year old, a soldier from the British Army came and took a group of us away to war. We were loaded onto a ship and then we were sailed for Gallipoli in Turkey, where the British and their friends were fighting the Turks. We were put to work carrying water to the soldiers who were fighting in the hills. It was a tough life for them. Nowhere was safe from bombs and bullets. For shelter, the soldiers lived in trenches and in holes in the ground. The weather was either very, very hot with lots of flies, or it was extremely cold, and there was not a lot of nice food or fresh water, and the soldiers couldn't wash, and many of them got very sick. Life for us donkeys was very hard. The cans of water were very heavy, and sometimes the Turkish soldiers fired bullets and artillery shells at us, and it was scary, and the noise was deafening. But worst of it was we were always hungry, and if we were too slow or slipped or fell, some of the drivers would beat us. My driver was one of the worst. One day when I stumbled and spilt some water, he hit me again and again, and I decided I would run away from this cruel man, and I waited for a good time to escape. My chance came the next day. My driver had stopped to have a cup of tea, but forgot to tie me to a post. As he was leaning over to pour his hot tea into his cup, I kicked him with my hind legs, and he fell over, and hot tea went everywhere. And I ran as fast as I could, and my driver's yells went fainter and fainter, and I was free. I wandered around by myself for the rest of the day, and I grew hungry and tired tried to find some food, but there was only a little bit of grass to eat. Nighttime came, and I was tired and cold and hungry, and I missed the other donkeys. I woke up early the next morning, and I couldn't find any grass or plants to eat, so I tried seaweed, and it was horrible, dry and salty. I started to walk back to where I'd left my driver the previous day. He would beat me again, but it was better than starving. And then I saw a tall man coming towards me. I could see he was a soldier. "Hello, little donkey. What are you doing here?" he said. His voice was kind. I didn't know what to do. Should I run? "Here, little donkey," and the man held out something to me. It was a biscuit with jam on it. He stroked my back while I ate it. "You're just what I need, but I'll have to fatten you up first." And he gave me another biscuit, and when I'd finished, the man picked up my rope from around my neck and he led me away. And that was how I met Richard Alexander Henderson. He was a soldier with the New Zealand Field Ambulance, and his job was to save lives of soldiers who were sick or wounded. He had to move them from the trenches to the beach at Anzac Cove, and from there the soldiers to be taken to the hospital ship. Each day Richard and I would set off looking for sick or wounded soldiers, and when we found some, Richard would have a good look at their injuries, and he would take a small glass container from his pack, and he'd apply iodine to each wound, which helped to clean it, and then he wrapped the wound in a bandage called a field dressing to stop the bleeding and keep the dirt out. Once all this was done, it was my turn. "Let's get you on the donkey, mate," Richard would say. With the soldiers sitting on my back and leaning up against Richard, we slowly made our way down to Anzac Cove. Sometimes we had to rush across the open spaces because it was dangerous to go slow. In really bad places like Quinn's Post, we could work only at night. Often I would feel something warm and sticky running down my back, blood from the soldier, and Richard would apply another field dressing. He had to stop the bleeding or the soldier might die. And when we delivered the soldier to Anzac Cove, Richard would clean me with seawater before we climbed back up to the battlefield. Richard and I were a good team. He looked after me. I was always well fed and he never hit me. In return, I always tried to do my best for him. I was as gentle as I could be with the sick and injured men. And I remembered the day that Richard gave me my name. He said, "I can't keep calling you Donkey. How about Roland?" I had a dog by that name. He was a good fellow too. I nuzzled Richard's shoulder. "You really like it?" "Roly it is then." One day, Richard fell sick and there was something wrong with his tummy. We had to leave Gallipoli and go to the hospital. He stroked my head and tried to smile. I said, "Don't worry, Roly, I'll be back to work with you soon." For 9 days I kept working, and although the other New Zealand soldiers were good to me, I missed Richard. On the 10th day, Richard came back. "Roly," he said, "I bought you something," and he gave me a big juicy carrot. Once again we were a team, and we saved a lot of soldiers' lives. At the end of 1915, the British and their friends decided to leave Gallipoli, and the soldiers were sad to leave. Many of their companions had been killed there. However, their orders were to pack up and leave Gallipoli as quietly as they could. Richard was worried. "Roly, old chap, you can't come with me. I need to find you a good home." He left Gallipoli for a day or two, and then he came back and he seemed much happier. About a week later he said to me, "Come on, let's go for one last trip on the beach." He took me down to the water, and I was surprised when he led me to a boat. We sailed to an island called Lemnos. At the town of Mudros, a family were waiting, and Richard led me to them and gave the lead to a young boy. "This is Roly," Richard said. "He's a great little worker and a wonderful friend. You look after him." And with that he patted my back, wiped a tear from his eye and walked away. And that was the last time I saw him. Although I missed Richard at first and was sad that we parted, my new family treated me well. I had to work on their farm, but the work wasn't hard, and they gave me good food and kept me warm, and the young children spent time with me, and there were other animals to play with too. I'll always remember my time at Gallipoli, and I will never forget my friend Richard Henderson from New Zealand. He was my donkey man. Do you know something? I know Richard's son. His name is Ross, and he's a friend of Papa's. That was the story of Roland and my friend Ross's dad, Richard. Night, night.